But now today we can be free. And the Latin of support will be all under happy tree. London will be welcome. When the British heard of this place, they came to settle it. They brought Africa to war, the Caribs were to stay with them. French people got to northern land, so they came for the American. So the British were the French countries they understand. No, they better not be quartering, no, they didn't keep on us on the coast. And they come back to Rissoul, they go get every land now. They back in there for the Picado. Back in there for the Picado. Yes, they are fire really on. It doesn't know which them bring. French, Caribbean, Africa, we are unique, we are not friends. Now we are all over the class. No one is going to push us from. We're going to be our attention. For children and adults. No, they better not be quartering. No, they think we can't pass us about. When they come back to Rissoul, they go and they feel us now. They back in their quarter, we got to. Back in their quarter, we got to. No, they better not be quartering. No, they think we can't push us about. When they come back to Rissoul, they go and they feel us now. They back in their quarter, we got to. 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 In the year 1493, Christopher Columbus came. He saw a huge mass of land. It was green, so high and untamed. It was someday a lovely day, and blue as the sea and sky. We lived this new land Dominica, the whole of steady time. No, they better not be quartering. No, they should be back for something else. And they come back to Rissoul, they go and they feel a jam. They back in their quarter, we got to. Back in their quarter, we got to. At first, parents were not friendly. They just strangers away. For a long time, this land was yours. For no more, there's one thing to stay. But now today we can be free. And the Latin of support will be all under happy tree. London will be welcome aboard. Never know they got me. No, they didn't be back on us about. When they come back to Rissoul, they go make every land now. They back in their quarter, we got to. Back in their quarter, we got to. When the British heard of this place, they came to settle it. They brought Africa to war, the Caribs were to stay with them. French people got to northern land, so they came to the American. So the British were the French countries they understand. No, they better not be quartering. No, they think we can't pass on the coast. And they come back to Rissoul, they go and they feel us now. They back in their quarter, we got to. Back in their quarter, we got to. Yes, where we live on. It was from the wind and bring French Caribbean,
Hello, good evening, folks. Good evening, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to our broadcast, Contending for Dominica. Another beautiful day the Lord has made, another beautiful evening. I want to thank God for me and for you for another beautiful day. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that your family is doing well wherever you are. I hope that you had a good day and you're having a good evening. This is another edition of Contending for Dominica. Your host is Joshua Francis, attorney at law and former member of parliament in the Commonwealth of Dominica. This evening we are going to discuss the proposed international airport for the Commonwealth of Dominica, an issue which has raised and sparked quite a number of discussions, particularly in the Wesley area. That's the village with the site for the proposed international airport. This evening, we are going to focus on land acquisition. I know that a number of you are very keen on knowing the process and to share your views on the proposed international airport. So once again, good evening. We are grateful to be alive. We are happy to be here. I'm happy that you have been able to join me. Please share the broadcast, share it with your friends, your family. Make it known that Joshua Francis is on for Contending for Dominica. Of course, we are on 1 year anniversary since the last general election, and I'm sure many of you all have memories of what transpired on election day 2019. Yes, I'm not too sure what happened there. We seem to have had a technical glitch, but I'm back on and I'm happy to be here with you. If you have any difficulties, please make it known unto me. You can put in a message on the message board. You could also WhatsApp me at my number 245-0704. Welcome. Contending for Dominica. We are grateful to be here this evening and we are looking forward to have a very interactive program. But before the technical glitch where I was kicked out from the video, I was just highlighting what transpired, election 2019. Of course, many of you supported the opposition party, the United Workers' Party. Some of you supported the Dominica Labour Party. The Dominica Labour Party turned out to be the victors and are currently in sitting government positions. We have 3 members of parliament in the opposition that are members for Marigot, Rosenhoff, and Salisbury. Congratulations once again are in order for the respective parliamentary representatives representing the United Workers' Party, the Honorable Lennox Linton, leader of the United Workers' Party and member for the Marigot constituency, Hector John, member for the Salisbury constituency, and Daniel Luge, member for the Rosenhoff constituency. Well-earned victories and congratulations to the people in the respective constituencies which are being held by the United Workers' Party. Of course, you may want to say congratulations to other members of parliament for the various other constituencies on the island. But like me, many United Workers' Party supporters have concerns about the victories of the Dominica Labour Party in light of the several irregularities, the dishonesties, the unfair advantage, and so on and so forth. It is what it is. We are moving on. It's a year after, and we're just so happy to be here. Over the past year, some of our loved ones have left us, have gone beyond. May their souls rest in peace. And we're praying and hoping that we'll be here again next year. Same time, I want to take the opportunity to say happy birthday to my kind mother, my beautiful mother. Happy birthday to you, Mom. If you're on, I want you to know that I love you and I will always love you. I honor you and I ask God to keep you on earth, keep me on earth and keep your family on earth for many, many more years. And we ask for grace and joy, and hopefully we can spread that around in our own respective circles. Happy birthday to every other one who is celebrating his or her birthday today. I hope that you had a great day and that your evening will turn out to even be better. Of course, happy to be here with you as I have stated. And this evening we are going to discuss a very important issue, that is the proposed international airport in the Commonwealth of Dominica. I want the program, the broadcast, to be interactive, and as such I'll be looking for your comments. I noticed that we have Addison Lovely here with us. She has been the only person comments I have seen so far. I'm not too sure what is happening here, but I hope that I will be able to see your comments because I want us to interact. I want to hear your views on the proposed construction of an international airport here in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Of course, I would think that most of us, if not all of us who are on this broadcast, are in fact in support of a construction of an international airport. All of us want to know that we can travel from Alaska, from Europe, from Australia, wherever we are, directly into Dominica. We'll be happy. Of course, it has been a discouragement for many of you in different parts of the world to come home on a regular basis in view of the difficulties and the hassling in moving from one airport to the other. The reality is that Dominica is one of the very few countries in the Caribbean without an international airport, and for us to move from the metropolitan countries, including the United States, we have to go through one of our regional hubs, whether it's Puerto Rico, Antigua, Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Martin, to name a few. And the site of an international airport, the vision of an international airport in Dominica excites us because this would be a game changer. This, in fact, is a major transformative program, and all of us would agree that we desire to have an international airport in Dominica. In recent times, we have heard quite a number of controversies surrounding the construction of the international airport. But before we go any further to touch some of the controversies, we want to look at the background of the construction of the international airport in Dominica. Of course, Dominica gained political independence in 1978, and between 1980 and 1985, between 1980 and 1995, the Dominica Freedom Party held the reins in the Commonwealth of Dominica. During that time, we did not hear so much of an international airport until the last 5 years of the Dominica Freedom Party's reign, when there was some discussion that the Dominica Freedom Party was going to embark on the construction of an international airport at the, I think, some Compton area up in the northern part of Dominica, Point Wrong area. And that didn't happen. And then here came the United Workers' Party between 1995 and 2000. And we're aware that in 1998, the United Workers' Party government had put over $100 million aside for the construction of an international airport. A site was identified between Woodford Hill and Wesley, and the government, the United Workers' Party government then, had already acquired land in excess of 400 acres and over 200 families. So those monies were made available to the families. The government then acquired the land, had monies set aside, but unfortunately the United Workers' Party lost the election in 2000, and as such the venture to build an international airport at that site did not happen. The United Workers' Party lost, the Labour Party formed the government, and at some point was not interested in constructing an international airport. As a matter of fact, if I recall, there was a campaign by the Dominica Labour Party stating that Dominica did not need an international airport. However, in 2014, the Dominica Labour Party took a different position and promised the people of Dominica that it would build an international airport. Again, if I recall, I'm subject to correction. The Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, said that the day after the election victory that the Dominican Labour Party government would embark on the construction of an international airport. 6 years after, now we are hearing that the government of Dominica is ready and set to build an international airport for us, the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica. The site would be at the northeastern part of Wesley, and of course, the government would have to go through a process to realize the construction of an international airport, the only international airport for the Commonwealth of Dominica. As stated, most of us, in fact, are in support of such a construction. This is a humongous infrastructural project, and we would expect certain transformations in our culture, in our economic welfare, in our socio-economic space. All of us want a better Dominica. We want to see better houses. We want to experience a better standard of living. And we have the view such a construction, in fact, would generate much economic activities to improve our lives. So as I said, that is our discussion tonight. At the heart of the discussion is land acquisition, the process, the pros and the cons. I would expect those of you who are about to be affected by the construction of the international airport and you have joined us here this evening on our live broadcast, that you will in fact participate. I just want to make sure that we are on board, that we are properly connected, that our discussions are going to be clean, and that our connection is going to allow us to interact. As I stated earlier, I want you to participate in the conversation. Let us see what's happening here as far as your presence is concerned. Once again, I want to invite you to Contending for Dominica. This is your host, Joshua Francis. Always a pleasure. I'm always happy to be in your company, and I hope that we're going to have a beautiful night. Our show usually lasts an hour. We are not necessarily restrained to an hour, but of course at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night, most of you in our parts are getting ready for tomorrow, a working week. So we're not making it too long. I'm not too sure what's happening here, but I'm not seeing your comments. I'm sure some of you have welcomed me, and likewise I would like to welcome you back. But I'm having a little difficulty here. So let me just see if I can correct that, and we can get going. Yes. So as I said, this evening we are going to talk about land acquisition. As you know, we have a right to land, and that is enshrined in the Constitution of Dominica. Section 6 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Dominica gives us a right to property. This is also a regional and international right, and enshrined in many international conventions on human rights. The right to property is a human right. It means that you are entitled to have your land, as we call it, a certificate of title for a portion of land. That is when the land is registered, and in some cases it is unregistered. You could obtain it by sale, through purchase, or you could obtain it through inheritance or some other means. You have that right, and now we're hearing about land acquisition in excess of 400 acres of land in the Wesley area. What does that mean? What is the process? What are the consequences? Are you one of them? Have you sold your land to the government of Dominica? Do you have a choice as far as land acquisition is concerned? So those are the questions which we are going to tackle, but I'm just going to go on my phone to see if I can see what you're saying, because we're having a little issue here on my laptop. I'm not too sure why my laptop is being naughty to me, but that will be rectified hopefully on my cell phone. Let me see what's happening here, because I do not want to be speaking solely. I want you to be part of this. I want to interact with you, and we're going to have a very good evening. So as I was saying, land acquisition. So far I'm not too sure what's happening here, but we're going to get this corrected, and we're going to, yes, so I can see your comments on my phone. I just want to respond. Yes, Adele, Dangle Ben, you want me to smile? Good evening. I hope you're having a good one. And Judith, Gist, Clara, how are you? I see here, Edrica, my sister, how are you doing? Uh, she's saying here, it is necessary. Everyone should collaborate to build the international airport. Emmanuel George, good evening. Daria, Eugene, good evening. Those of you who have sent me a message greeting me, I want to say good evening to you. So we started talking about land acquisition and the international airport. As I stated, most of us, if not all of us who are on this broadcast, see the need for an international airport. The construction of an international airport would consider to be a public and common good, and therefore most of us would support the improvement of public welfare in the Commonwealth of Dominica. The question is whether we support the site which has been identified and been developed for the international airport. Of course, you have your view. Many supporters of the United Workers' Party contend that the government of Dominica ought to have used the site between Woodfordale and Wesley identified for the international airport in 1998. The United Workers' Party government, in fact, had expended significant monies in obtaining a detailed plan for the construction of an international airport between Wesley and Woodfordale. A feasibility study was done, and the government then claimed that it had put aside over $100 million for the construction of the international airport. Persons who paid for their land already, and farmers who were displaced had been given other areas to cultivate and to have a source of income. But of course that did not happen. Some of us would prefer that the government of Dominica would go back to that site. That's not going to happen. The government of Dominica has already left the station with its own plans. The question is whether you support it, whether you are going to promote it, and whether you are going to find a way to convince those who are against to support the construction of the international airport. The people of Wesley in particular, some of you have been in contestation with the plan of the government of Dominica for disrupting or about to disrupt your life, because over 400 acres of land is being purchased or have been acquired. The government of Dominica has stated by the 1st of December, the acquisition process would have been completed. Now, what is the acquisition process? As I said, I started with the Constitution of Dominica, particularly Section 6, which gives you a right to land. It's an international right. You have a right to property, and here it is the government is saying, hey, I want that property because we are about to do something for the people of Dominica. Now, I just want to refer to the Acquisition Act. I have some notes here, just to assist me as I go ahead, and I'm sure that you will have some questions in regards to the law as far as the Land Acquisition Act of the Commonwealth of Dominica. The Land Acquisition Act is a legal instrument which is common to all democracies in the world. Wherever you are, if you look at the legal framework of your country, you will come across the Land Acquisition Act. You also have the Road Ordinance, which is an older legislation, but it does the same thing. It empowers the government of the day to acquire land compulsorily, meaning that you cannot stop the government should the government be interested in acquiring your land for the people of Dominica. The Land Acquisition Act, Chapter 5302, gives the government of the day authority to acquire your land. In this case, the people of the Northeast Wesley, you do not really have a choice. The government has already declared that it requires your property for the construction of an international airport, and the government would have satisfied the two most important elements in the acquisition process. That is, number one, to declare that it requires your property for a public good. So the declarations have already been made, the declarations have been gazetted, public notice have been given to you. The next question is whether what the government is about to do is a public good. Well, yes, the construction of the international airport is a common good for the people of Dominica. And The third, which I did not make mention of, I said two. The third thing is that you are being compensated. Many of you have already been compensated. Those of you who have not been compensated will be compensated. Those of you who are out of state, you will have been made aware that your property has been acquired by the people, the government of Dominica, for the construction of that international airport in the Wesley area. And you really don't have a choice. If you feel that the government did not follow the procedures, you will have a recourse in law. You can move to court. But that's not going to happen because the government would have followed the process to acquire your property. Of course, there are pros and cons. Like every other country where a government is interested in acquiring private property for the purpose of a public good, here comes a disruption. Your family lives are going to be disrupted, source of income going to be disrupted. In that regard, many of you who live in areas where land has been acquired for the construction of the international airport, you will have to be relocated. The Prime Minister of Dominica has stated that you have an option. Those of you who are going to be disrupted as far as residence is concerned, you can give the government of Dominica the option to construct a new house for you or to move you into one of the public apartments somewhere out there. The government has also made provisions for the relocation of farmers who are interested to continue farming. So provisions have been made and provisions continue to be made for you, the people of Wesley, so that your life will not be disadvantaged as far as your life is concerned. Okay? So, as we said, your right to property does exist. It's a constitutional right, but there must be a balance between private rights or individualism and public rights. The government has a responsibility to improve our lives, and as such, the venture to build an international airport clearly is a public good. It is a common good. It is for the betterment and improvement of the welfare of the people of Dominica. The reality is that those of us who travel, we want to move from one country to the other without having to stop in one of the regional hubs. Furthermore, there are several cases or arguments for the construction of the international airport. We would expect the construction of the international airport to improve the economic and social welfare of the country. This is a multi-sectoral plan. This is a multi-sectoral program and adventure that will make life better for us here in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Of course, some airports, some hotels have already been constructed. We would expect the construction of the international airport to improve the physical infrastructure, to generate economic activities, and to grow the economy. After all, an airport which is expected to attract 220 million EC dollars. $220 million definitely is going to, is that US? It's definitely going to make life better for us. The next question is, where is that money coming from? Where is that money coming from? Well, our Prime Minister has informed that the money is going to come from the CBI program. We are going to sell more citizenships to sponsor and finance the international airport. Before I proceed, let me just take note of some of the comments. Daria, you said, we all know that an international airport would ease travel to and from Dominica. Do you think that there is enough economic activity on the ground that would attract foreign interests, that would make, I'm just trying to read the rest here, unfortunately I'm having some difficulties, but there is concern about whether the international airport would be viable, whether to generate enough economic activity in the Commonwealth of Dominica to maintain itself. Well, of course, that's a debatable question. That's a debatable issue. Some of you may say yes, some of you may say no. What we're aware of is that once the international airport is constructed, that we would expect more travel. Now, the question is whether people do desire to come to Dominica. Apart from our locals who want to come to see their family, who wants to come here on vacation, so enjoy our carnival, Christmas, to name a few, whether it would attract tourism to the point where the economy would grow and the international airport would be sustainable. Well, we are hopeful. We have the Kempinski Hotel, we have some other hotels which have already been constructed, and therefore the international airport would only facilitate occupancy. As it is right now, a lot of these hotels are just shells due to the COVID pandemic and due to the slowdown of the global economy. So this is debatable. Let me just take note of some other comments here. Artisan, you said, has government given reasons why the airport cannot be built on the area which proposed by the United Workers' Party? I am not aware of the government response except the Prime Minister stating that independent engineering and professional advice has stated that the current site, or the site located by the Dominica Labour Party government, is a better site than what had been selected by the United Workers' Party. Of course, we are not privy to the studies. This is the remarks from the Prime Minister of Dominica. He did not go in details as to explain why the site of the Dominica Labour Party is a better site than that of the United Workers' Party. So I do not want to speak for the Prime Minister. What we're aware of is that the site which the Dominica Labour Party has identified definitely is going to cause more disruption for the people of Wesley. And some of you think it's okay because we have to pay a price for development, and the price here is that we're going to disrupt the life of several people of Wesley. As a matter of fact, some arguments go beyond that to say that the Wesley community will be history. Well, we have a case of PT7 where an entire community had to be relocated due to Tropical Storm Erica. So in that regard, it would not be a natural disaster, it would be a human occurrence that would cause the relocation of the people of Wesley. So I'm just going to look here to see if I see any further comments or questions. I see that Alison is saying we would like to hear Mr. Gregor Nassif. Gregor Nassif has to say nothing about building the airport. I think Alison Lovey did recall that Mr. Nassif was one of them contending that Dominica did not need an international airport. Like everybody else, possibly he could have changed his opinion because things have evolved. The global space has changed. Dominica has changed in certain respects. So, my fellow brothers and sisters, as I say, I want this interactive, and therefore I want you to participate in the discussion. So we are looking at the Land Acquisition Act of the Commonwealth of Dominica. That legal instrument provides the legal authority for the government to have acquired the land at Wesley for the construction of the international airport. And I stated that the Constitution of Dominica does give us a right to our property, to enjoy it as we so desire, but when the government thinks that our property must be utilized for a public good, then the government has that right to acquire our property compulsorily, subject to compensation. And the compensation is determined by a board which has already been selected. The board, of course, will compensate based on the current market value of the land. So you have an assessor, as in this case, the chief engineer in lands would facilitate a valuation, an assessment of someone's property, and he or she, that is the owner of the property, will be compensated accordingly. If somebody has difficulties with the proposed compensation, of course you can challenge it and it will be resolved. We have had situations in Dominica where lands were acquired and people were not compensated. And I recall of one case where that person challenged the government of Dominica and was successful in court. So the government is aware of the laws and is going by the law. as far as the acquisition, the compulsory acquisition of land in the Wesley area for the construction of the international airport. I'm taking in questions, I'm taking in comments. We are discussing the construction of the international airport in the Commonwealth of Dominica. We are looking towards better days when we can travel from Canada to Dominica, from Dominica to Canada non-stop. Many of you are in New York, in Texas, in different parts of the United States of America. I know that you're looking towards that day when you can travel from one airport in the United States of America directly into Dominica. Just the vision of it is beautiful. But of course, we hope that comes to a realization earlier than later. And the construction of an international airport is coming at a cost. Number one, the disruption of life in the Wesley area. Number two, the sale of our citizenship, which itself is another topic by itself, where they're selling passports, selling away our citizenships to get money. At what cost? What would be the ramifications for the people of Dominica? Is it worth it to sell over 300 citizenships to make money for the construction of the international airport? Well, you have your view. I have mine as well. What I know is that we must not allow our country to be sold for a penny. We do need an international airport, but we must be careful as to the price we are willing to pay to obtain that international airport. There are also peripheral controversies surrounding the proposed construction of the international airport. We have questions about who is going to be on that board. The Prime Minister of Dominica has stated that there will be a local company which will be responsible for the construction and management initially of that international airport. Who are the people? What are the 16 people who are going to be on that board? Again, I'm quoting the Prime Minister. He said that it will constitute of professionals, accountants, engineers, and so on and so forth. Furthermore, it has been alleged that MMCE will be given a contract to construct the international airport. Now, I didn't hear that from the Prime Minister nor any government official. This is just speculations. Another area of contention in respect to the construction of the international airport is the question of whether MMCE is going to play a role. And some people are already saying that the construction of the international airport may facilitate further money laundering. I didn't say that, but these are some of the views which are going around whenever we have major public infrastructural development projects. You expect quite a number of discussions, rightfully so, especially in view of the dubious sales of Dominica citizenships. Our CBI program has been opaque. It has been done in a manner which has caused many of us to question the transparency and accountability in selling our citizenships. Furthermore, we have a situation where one company, MMCE, has been given almost exclusive superpower in Dominica for the sale of our citizenships and for the construction of public buildings, public goods. Currently, we have MMCE lending money to the people of Dominica and given the right to sell citizenships to recoup its money. Very few of us seem to be concerned about that issue. It is a major issue, and that is a subject by itself. Again, I'm just making mention of peripheral issues to the subject of the construction of the international airport, and I want you to take note of it because it is very important. After all, many countries would finance the construction of their international airports via loans and grants. And for a moment, we thought that's what was going to happen because the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica in the past gave the people of Dominica the assurance that the international airport, the proposed construction of the international airport in Dominica would be financed by foreign entities. But now that has taken a different take. We are being told that the financing of the proposed construction of the international airport is by the sale of our citizenship, the sales of our citizenship. More passports on sale, more Dominican citizenships are on sale for the construction of our international airport. Let me just take note of some of your concerns here. Someone here is saying, well, if it is the CBI money that will be used, passports will continue to sell, and you know what next. Well, yes, Lovi, we know what next. We have reasons to believe that there is unlawful practices, there is corruption in the sale of our citizenship. We say that, and we say it boldly, because the Prime Minister of Dominica has admitted that in recent times that he and his government created a food option under the CBI program, whereby monies goes to a housing option for the purpose of public housing. So monies which are supposed to go directly into the consolidated funds in the Commonwealth of Dominica have been diverted into an escrow account controlled by MMCE for the purpose of constructing public facilities. And that itself raises a lot of questions, because we have the view that such proceeds should be under the purview of Parliament. Such proceeds should be part of the consolidated funds of Dominica. In the absence of that, we have many questions. How many passports has MMC sold? What is the cost of building that MMC has undertaken? What is the net profit that MMC has enjoyed? After all, it is our citizenships, it is our passports which have been sold. And not only that, MMC has been mired in other controversial issues in Dominica. We are aware of the construction of the building up at Mont Daniel, and that building is owned by a company which is headed by Mr. Matthew Hayden, none other than the same gentleman who is at the head of MMCE. So a lot of questions have been circling the CBI program, which once again is going to be part and parcel of the construction of the proposed international airport for us, the people of the Commonwealth of Dominica. So I'm urging all of you to keep your eyes, keep your cocosier close to what's happening in Wesley, because you may very well finally get corroboration of the unaccounted public monies resulting from the sales of our citizenships in the Commonwealth of Dominica. So let me just take note of whether you have any further questions there. I see that Venice has just stepped in. She said she's late. Welcome, Venice. Welcome, Adelaide Paul. It's always a pleasure to be in a public forum with you. I want to commend all the patriots who have stood and continue to stand for the people of Dominica. Of course, it's 1 year since we had the last general elections in the Commonwealth of Dominica. The United Workers' Party lost the election. Yours truly lost the election in Rosa South. We have been bruised and battered, but we are standing. We will not give up the struggle. We will not lose hope. If anything, we are reinvigorated, we are re-inspired, and we are refocused to stand for Dominica, because a lot of things are happening and some of us continue to take it for granted, because we have quite a number of poor people in Dominica, income poor people, and because of their income poverty, they have been accepting goodies, rightfully so, from the government of Dominica, and continue to give support to the Dominican Labour Party government, because they think without the Dominican Labour Party government they would never own a home. And that is so sad. A successful government is one which creates an enabling environment for people to earn their monies and to build their own homes, to save monies in the bank, to send their children to study, and to enjoy life. But we have adopted Chavez and Castro model in Dominica, whereby the state control most of the country's resources and in return gives crumbs to the people of Dominica. Of course, by no means I am saying that a house is a crumb. A home is a basic necessity. It's part of our needs as we learn it at school. We need our basic needs, food, clothing, and shelter. The point is not about the government not providing housing. The point is that this government has crippled the innovation, the spirit, the independence and drive of ordinary Dominicans. And with the proposed construction of the international airport, we're not too sure that is going to change. Today I heard some people from Granby praising the Prime Minister of Dominica for apartments. Now it would have been better and these people would have been more proud had they been able to build their own apartments. And you know what's happening in Dominica? Fine, the government has spent a lot of money on housing. A lot of the CBI funds have been spent on housing. But the question is, how much? What is the cost of building those houses? What is the net profit for MMC? Who's enjoying those profits? Is it the Prime Minister? Is the Prime Minister a beneficiary of the profits of MMCE? Those are the questions that we have to ask. And when you ask such questions, you get a better understanding, you get a better look, you get a better idea of what's happening in Dominica. And I'm asking you to keep your eyes close to the construction or the proposed construction of the international airport at Wesley, because you may very well see the truth as far as who are the people really benefiting from our lifeblood. Because we're just selling passports, and very few of us are questioning whether that is wise. What are the long-term ramifications? When we sell passports, we are selling to very wealthy people. And it takes less than 1% of these wealthy people to come to Dominica and buy us out. We've seen what's happening in Roseau already. We have some Chinese quietly buying Roseau. And again, immediate gratification by most of us. We get a little penny here and there. We are so busy. We are studying things which are not important. And we're not seeing what's happening right here in Dominica. Roseau is being purchased. The whole country is being sold. And fine within the international airport, but at what cost? Those are the questions I want you to ask. So let's look at some more issues here. We have Alison asking, well, I'm not too sure, is it Artisan or Artisan? I'm not too sure what I'm pronouncing your name properly, but nonetheless, I will take note of your question. What are the engineers, the project managers, architects? We have not yet seen any of these people in an interview with the PM. Where are the documents to show the drawings of the proposed airport? We want to see the plan, and that's only fair. And that is one of the questions that was asked by the Wesley people. I think the Wesley people formed a group referred to as the Wesley Development Organization. This is an organization which consists of several professionals in the Wesley area. And that is one of the issues that the people of Wesley have raised. And that is, where is the plan? You say you have a plan, you have a design, you're going to build an international airport for the people of Dominica. Hastily, you have been purchasing land, acquiring land, and you say by the first quarter of 2021, we're going to have an international airport start, well, international airport construction start in Dominica. But where is the plan? Is it okay for us to just continue to be in the dark as far as our own development is concerned? Isn't the government responsible to be a servant of the people, responsible to let us know what's happening? Is this construction again going to happen in the dark? Is the management of the monies going to happen in the dark? Those are some of the questions that we are asking. Because sometimes when you hear some people in Dominica talk about Roosevelt's carrot, you swear they think that the gentleman was really sent by God and he's some kind of angelic leader, that he's so upright and so righteous and he loves the poor so much. Haven't we learned from history? Haven't we learned about Papa Doc? Haven't we learned about leaders who come across like they were sent, and then when it comes to the management of the country, they are secretly benefiting? Well, here in Dominica, we have a case, and we must pay attention to it. And the international airport is really going to open up our eyes. All right, so we're continuing here. We are following what's happening with the proposed construction of the international airport in Wesley. Of course, it's a constituency which was held by the United Workers' Party, and unfortunately, due to circumstances which everyone here is aware, the Dominican Labour Party successfully took that seat from the United Workers' Party. But I'm confident that the United Workers' Party will be back. The people of Wesley, they have been forced to open their eyes on the proposed construction of the international airport. Now, at the heart of our discussion is land acquisition. That is the compulsory purchase of land from the private citizens, or from the citizens of Dominica, owners of private land. The government of Dominica has acquired over 400 acres of land, namely 411 acres of land in the Wesley area, especially in the northeastern part of Wesley, for the construction of an international airport. Well, the people of Dominica are excited. We are looking forward. We are looking towards. We are hoping to have an international airport in years to come. But in our excitement, let us not be blind. Let us not be naive, especially when we are dealing with a government that has a history of opaque governance, a government that has a history of mismanagement of public funds derived from the CBI program. To date, in spite of the many questions which have been asked to the Prime Minister and the people of Dominica for accounting for CBI funds as it relates to MMCE, we have not received any satisfactory response. And I fear that something similar may happen for the construction of the international airport. So we have to call on the government of Dominica for transparency, for accountability. We do not only want to see the plans and the feasibility studies in regards to the proposed construction of the international airport, but we want to see the costing. We want to know how many passports which will have been sold. We want to know exactly how the money is spent as we go along. Already we have been made cognizant that government has spent about $43 million in the initial stages, initial studies for the construction of the international airport in the Wesley area. So I want to hear from you, our listeners. I want to hear from you as we interact as far as the construction of an international airport in the Commonwealth of Dominica. I want to hear your views. Are you for? Are you against? Are you believe that the people of Wesley ought not to have been moved, and that the government of Dominica should have gone on the UWP site, as we say it? In truth and in fact, there is no such thing as the Freedom site, the UWP site, and the Dominica Labour Party site. It is just a question of the sites which were selected by the respective governments of the Commonwealth of Dominica. So to simplify it, we have attributed the sites to the titles UWP site versus the Labour site. With the UWP site, not many persons in Wesley would have had to be disrupted compared to the Labour site, where a significant number of families have had to accept the compensation for the acquisition of their land with the purpose, or for the purpose of the construction of an international airport. I want to hear your views. Are you one of them? Have you had to go through the process? Did you receive compensation for your land? Did your family receive compensation? Has your family been promised relocation? Are you a farmer? Are you accepting lands elsewhere for the continuation of your source of income? Because of course, when it comes to land acquisition compulsorily, there is a price, there are arguments for and against, there are advantages and disadvantages. Of course, the construction of any public good is for, or is meant to be for, the general welfare of the country, is for the public welfare of the country, as in this case, the construction of an international airport is for a common good, is for the general welfare of the people of Dominica. So land acquisition compulsorily is good. It is advantageous to us in that regard because all of us want an international airport. What are some of the disadvantages? Well, people have to move. Families have to be disrupted. Families must be relocated. Farmers have to be relocated. And of course, from a cultural point of view, heritage have to be broken. Because some of you, wherever you are in any part of the world, when you think of Wesley, you think of the place that you were born, the place where you were raised. You have very good memories. You remember where you played your mommy and daddy, your cowboy, your Indian, your marble hole, wherever you were. You remember those days, and those memories mean a lot to you. You have a value, a sentimental value for your property in Wesley. That must be done away with. That is being decimated because your old house or your grandfather's land will not be what you know it to be. A matter of fact, in some areas, there will be no resemblance and no evidence of the areas that you knew as a child or your grandfather knew many years ago, because once we have the construction, it means that some areas are going to be leveled and excavated, and here goes the heritage connected to the property. Here goes some of your likings for your community. Wesley obviously will not be the same, but we have to pay a price, and that's one of the prices that we must pay. We cannot have our cake and eat it. When it comes to infrastructural development, we have to pay the price of disrupting the ecosystem. We have to pay a price of altering the landscape, and that is one. We have to pay very close attention to the engineering. It is not just a monetary process. We have to take note of what's happening in the lands as far as drainage, as far as the ecosystem is concerned. Is that going to affect the ecosystem to a point where in the long run we're going to have exacerbated flooding? Other communities, adjacent communities, going to be affected adversely by the construction of the international airport. But we have to be positive. While we are being positive, we have to be realistic and responsible. With an international airport, we expect immediate economic injection on the island. We expect a serious multiplier whereby as soon as people start to work, more monies will be in circulation. With more money in circulation, more shopping is going to take place. The retailers, the wholesalers are going to get more money, and as more money goes around, more money goes to the bank into savings. More savings means more money is available for loans at a lower interest rate, and the multiplier effect expands, and hopefully we see a better economy in Dominica. We will get a Dominica where poor people will become more independent, because it really hurts my heart to hear so many Dominicans having to praise a prime minister like they're praising Jesus. The things that people say about Roosevelt Skerrit sometimes is really appalling. It hinges blasphemy. When I was a child growing up, the way I hear some people talking, only Jesus I would talk to about that. The way people talk is like it's something personal. The prime minister has not formulated any serious vision and effectuated any serious vision for the people of Dominica. It is simple, it is basic. Sell our citizenships, take the money, and build a few apartments for the people of Dominica. No breakthrough hasn't taken place in Dominica for the past 20 years. If, in fact, we do build an international airport, definitely that would be a major transformation for the people of Dominica, because once we have an international airport, like any and everywhere else in the world, we would expect more economic activity. So if that happens, then, of course, that would be a major plus for the people of Dominica, and then the Dominican Labour Party government would want to take a credit for that, would want to take a lot of credit for that. But again, that's not anything big, because this is not any major vision. This is something that Dominica needs. This is something that was supposed to have been done many years ago. And given that the Dominican Labour Party has been in government for over 20 years, you would have expected more to have been done. After all, what the government of Dominica is doing now is something that the United Workers' Party did since 1998. So I don't understand why some people think that we should beat our chest, jump off a mountain, take a jog, go to church and praise God for Roosevelt's carrot like it's something that is so innovative, something so novel. No. If anything, Roosevelt's carrot should be punished for taking so long to construct an international airport for the people of Dominica. In most countries where people are intellectually advanced and progressive, Roosevelt's carrot would not have existed as a prime minister after 20 years in any parts of the world. But in Dominica, a lot of us, we are intellectually and spiritually impoverished, and we don't seem to be concerned about improving our spiritual and intellectual capacities. And as such, we allow people like Roosevelt's carrot to get away with political murder. You know, because it is really unfortunate that in 1998, a sitting government expended a lot of monies to purchase private property for the construction of an international airport. And over 20 years thereafter, the sitting government is now going somewhere else to purchase more land and to tell the people of Dominica, hey, we're going to build an international airport, and you expect people like me to be excited. Well, I'm excited about an international airport being in Dominica, but I'm certainly not excited about the Dominica Labour Party government. And nobody in Dominica should give credit to the Dominica Labour Party for what it is about to do in Wesley. Nobody should be giving credit to the Prime Minister, especially when our citizenships are being sold. Over 300 passports will have to be sold for the construction of an international airport in Dominica. Nobody should be giving credit to that Prime Minister, you know, because selling a passport is not anything difficult. We have a few agents located in different parts of the world. They have websites. They target wealthy people who are interested in dual citizenships. They make it known unto potential buyers, hey, put your eyes on Dominica where you have the cheapest passports. Buy a passport and you become a citizen. So people who buy passport put monies into Dominica, either into the Economic Diversification Fund, whereby they simply make a donation to the people of Dominica, or through an investment venture where that money goes into an escrow account and government fees are paid. How simple could that be? What's so innovative about that? What is so big about the CBI program other than selling our lifeblood? And you know what? If we do not cap the sale of our citizenships, what happens to our great-grandchildren? What happens to them, 50 years from now when we will have more economic citizens than native Dominicans? What will happen? If for some reason the geopolitical status of the world were to transform to a point where wealthy people who have purchased our citizenships, the economic citizens, decide to come to Dominica as a place of refuge, what happens? It takes less than 1% of them to change Dominica, to take Dominica away from us, like what's happening slowly in Dominica. When you look at Roseau, the number of properties which are being purchased by the Chinese, these economic citizens are super wealthy people. They will come and slowly, as they're doing, just buy away Dominica. Buy our lands in Roseau, buy our properties. Eventually they'll move to rural places and buy farmlands. And just as we were physical slaves, we'll become economic slaves again. That's what we want, to work for people, work for foreigners. Already Roosevelt's carrot has a policy where major projects on this land are being given to foreigners. We have to work for foreigners. We sell our passports, work for them. That's what's happening. It's just going to exacerbate over time. And yet we sit down and we look down into Dominica and we say, well, we are supporting Roosevelt. We do not like Mr. Lincoln because he does not smile. Look at how myopic we are. Myopic and intellectually vacuous and deficient in our vision. People of Dominica, wake up. Wake up and look at what is happening. I want you to pay closer attention to the proposed construction of the international airport. Really pay close attention, because we may finally get evidence to substantiate our suspicion that the CBI program has created a scheme for certain actors and players to steal from us, to take away our monies. After all, a passport is public, it's a public entitlement. It is ours, and it is being sold, and all of us, each of us should benefit from its sale. And we're happy that some of that monies have been used for public housing. There are quite a number of poor people who would have never been able to build their own homes because this government has crippled the economy, has made people more dependent than independence, has not been able to grow our economy. We continue to have the smallest and weakest economy in the Caribbean. We continue to have the lowest wages. We are still without an international airport. After all, at least we are discussing about building one. We still don't have any major sporting facilities. We don't have an indoor sports facility. We are broken. We are really broken. And you know what is most broken in Dominica? It's not even the absence of physical infrastructural development projects, but it's our spirit. When I was a little boy, people were ideological, people were philosophical, people stood for something, people were ready to fight. Now it's about immediate gratification. Look at what I can get. So the tricksters and the deceivers simply just come by, give us a penny, and we allow ourselves to be mentally and politically enslaved. It is really sad. We have gone into deeper spiritual poverty in Dominica. And until such time, until we come to realize our true value, our worth, we will have Roosevelt's carrot making us think that he's a political god. You, the people of Dominica, wherever you are, you have a moral responsibility to open your eyes and to help enlighten your fellow brothers and sisters, to make them understand that this prime minister is no special prime minister. This government is no special government. This is a government that has obtained more revenues than any previous sitting government. This government has had VAT. This government has been selling our lifeblood through the CBI program. This government has had China and Venezuela pump billions of dollars into our economy over the past years. And what can we show for it? A stadium that's always empty. And that, let's not talk about COVID. Let's just look at the bigger picture outside of COVID. A stadium that occasionally that is being put into use, a stadium with limited economies of scale as far as economic activity is concerned. That's what they talk about. A highway, a so-called highway from the Libla Highway from Roseau to Portsmouth. That is what we're going to boast about. The China-friendly hospital, taking away our history and our heritage and pegging it into China. The China-friendly hospital. Are we not seeing what's happening? The whole country, the foreign policy, the dynamics, everything is changing. And it's not necessarily changing for the better, because all we're concerned about is the dollar for now. We're not looking down the road. We don't care about our soils. We don't care about our water. We don't care about heritage. We don't care about honesty. Not even God we worry about now, because we are compromising. And we are more into worshiping men than the things of God. So people of Dominica, once again, it's always a pleasure to be here with you, contending for Dominica. The objective of this broadcast is to help elevate our thinking, to help eliminate the bad people in politics, in the government, in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Of course, I know that the Dominica Labour Party won 18-3 in our last general election, and many of you, the supporters, the opposition supporters, have been discouraged. Some of you have been supporting the United Workers' Party since its inception in 1988. You have suffered, your families have suffered. I'm saying to you, don't lose hope. Stand for what you believe in. Stand for what you believe in. Do not compromise. Do not sell yourself. Have pride. Be at peace with yourself. Every rope has an end. The longest rope has an end. And believe me, the dishonest leaders in Dominica have an end. So stand up for what you believe in. Stand tall. Do not let anybody redefine you. If you stand for what is right, if you stand for what is good, if you stand for what is pure, if you genuinely love your fellow brothers and sisters, stand up for that. And believe me, you will triumph. Before you close your eyes to go and meet your maker, you will see that change in Dominica. And it may happen suddenly. So do not give up and take that responsibility to enlighten your fellow brothers and sisters. Let people understand that this government is not no special government. If anything, it's hurting our legacies, hurting our future, it's hurting our heritage, our environment. Our economy has not grown. So let me just take note of some of the comments and respond accordingly before I say good evening to you. Yeah, so somebody says here, we need an international airport. We'll get more economic activity, maybe more investment by foreign investors. Of course, that's our hope. With the construction of an international airport, we expect more economic activity. Yes, Alison Vollier, buy passports for only $50,000. And that is the reality. Yeah, you know, just buy a passport in Dominica, 50,000. What are we going to sell it next for? 20,000? 10,000? That's how low we are getting. Where's our dignity? Where's our national pride? Where's our national identity? What does it mean to be born in Dominica? Well, after all, in a country where a prime minister, while he is prime minister, sent his wife to bear two of his children in another state, clearly has told us that he does not have confidence in his own country. He doesn't have pride in it. So, I'm hoping that we get back there. Probably our children, our grandchildren, probably. Because it appears to me that current generation, not interested in national pride. Yeah, so let's look at some more of the comments here. Yes, hi, Mr. Susanna Roll. Hi, it's always a pleasure. I hope all is well. I hope you're keeping away from trouble in New York. Yes, my sister, hi, Edrica, Anthony, how are you doing? Lincoln Dira, yes, I'm back, Lincoln Dira, I'm back. Do you have a problem with that? Have you ever seen the movie by Arnold, whatever his last name is? Yes, I'm back. Do you have a problem with that, sir? Daria Eugene, Josh, you keep saying to keep your eyes on the airport, but we should not cause it to distract us too much. Skerritt and his gang are like wood ants. They move under the cover of darkness. Keep your eyes and ears open, my fellow men and women. And I do agree. You need to keep your eyes open. You need to keep your ears open. Anything less means that you're going to be a slave, an intellectual slave. You're going to be placed in a further state of false consciousness, which is a disease that a lot of us suffer from. We are in a pit. We are in an intellectual pit where we don't seem to have any foresight, any vision, any understanding. And we are easily manipulated, easily purchased, and easily led by tricksters, by this political gang that has seized the reins of power in Dominica. And sadly, some of us are so blind that we compare the sitting Prime Minister of Dominica to Jesus, a man who continues to use the word of God to justify his actions and inactions in Dominica. He has told us that he has been sent. But you should know a man by his fruits. You should know a man by what he does. And the people who think that Roosevelt Skerritt is helping them by giving them handouts, let me say to you that in the short run, because you have become so financially miserable, when you get a penny, you hail the donor as a king. But you're not realizing that it's the king who has impoverished you. It's over 20 years since the Dominican Labour Party has been in government. Had this country been progressive, most of us would be in a position to build a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom house. But a lot of us cannot afford to even build a shack. And then the government of Dominica, which is selling our passports, now have to be taking that funds and build apartments for us. And then we hail the man as a king. How much more foolish can we be? And ridiculous and ludicrous and absurd, preposterous. How can we hail a man who has been at the helm of government for the past 20 years, has not been able to create jobs for us, has not been able to increase wages significantly, has not been able to improve our economic welfare, crippled us financially, and now building public housing, giving us little apartments, and all of a sudden he is the best thing? I say to you, wake up, people. Wake up. You know what? Yes, you have gotten an apartment, but do you have money in the bank should you get ill that you can take care of yourself? Again, you're going to depend on the same prime minister to send your children to Cuba and to China on a scholarship because you don't have money. The same apartments that you get should a hurricane come next year or year after, God forbid, are you in a position to put a window for yourself? No. You're going to run to your DLP government for a galvanized and for a window. And that is development? That cannot be development. Real development and real growth is experienced when someone develops independence, when someone has a mind of his own, when someone can walk into a bank and take out some money on his own, when someone can send his child to study without having to beg a government. That is what you call progress. That is what you call independence. And not many Dominicans can enjoy that. Very few Dominicans. And if you are those who are within the boys' club of the Prime Minister, or those who are sitting on tables adjacent to the boys' club of Dominica. These are the people who can afford that. The people who can send their own children to study. They can send their children to Harvard. They have made so much money from Dominica. They have milked the system so well that their generations will not need to work, probably the next 2 generations. And we sit down there talking about, oh, I don't like Mr. Linton, he does not smile. Oh, I like Roosevelt Scarry because he has a dimple, because he gave me an apartment, because he sent my child to study in New Mexico, because he is charismatic. In the meanwhile, the country is being sold, and you have not developed yourself, you have not progressed. Come on, I listen to this Prime Minister, and I'm going to say outgoing Prime Minister, because it's just a matter of time. We don't have to wait for the next general election to refer to the gentleman as outgoing. He's not coming, he's outgoing. He has been spent, he has been a detriment to the heritage, to the culture, to the future of Dominica. And I hope many of you will come to that realization, and sooner than later, because it is time that we stand up like our forefathers. It is time that we're enlightened and see what's happening in Dominica. Hi, Lisa. Hi. I'm just going to wrap up in a few minutes. Lincoln, just remember the majority of us are Laborites, not UWPites. So continue, blah, blah. Lincoln Jura, that is your problem. You are Laborite before and after you are Dominican, right? So Labor comes before Dominica, and Labor will be there after Dominica. That's how you think. Isn't that so? So you're a Laborite, and it's okay for you to be fooled, for you to stay in a state of false consciousness, for you to stay intellectually blind. Wherever you are, sir, the reason why you're out there is because you're not satisfied with what is in Dominica. All the so-called Laborites who are in St. Martin, Guadeloupe, England, some of you, where you live, your conditions are deplorable. But it's still better than if you were in Dominica, and yet you want to keep the status quo in Dominica. You are wicked to yourself, and you're wicked to your family who are in Dominica. And I know some of you, I travel, I see some of you in the United States, I meet some of you at parties. You left Dominica because you were struggling, because you could not get a job. And even when you had a job, you were working poor. You could not take a mortgage. So you left here with the hope to make life better for you in the United States. Some of you still don't have papers. You went to the United States on a visa, and you chose not to come back because Dominica is so hard. And some of you were able to get papers eventually. And you allow Roosevelt Scarry and his government to give you a penny to come back to vote and to keep the status quo. And you come on Facebook and blast people like me for Roosevelt Scarry. How foolish. You can even stay in your own country because things are so hard, and yet you are supporting the status quo in Dominica. I'm telling you, it is all a new form of slavery. We have been physically made independent, but intellectually and spiritually, some of us are still caught up in a vicious cycle of poverty. It is rather unfortunate. Let me just look at some more remarks here. Yeah, thank you, Teresa, for praying for me. I do appreciate that. Maureen Abel, preach it as it is, whether you get back or not. Skerrit have to go. I do agree with Abel. He has to go. He will go. He did not go in 2019, but there will come a time he has to go. And it's not anything personal against Roosevelt Skerrit. My passion is not about, personal vendetta or a personal grudge against Roosevelt Skerrit. Roosevelt Skerrit is just another brother, he's just flesh and blood. He's not the author and finisher of his life. There's a greater power to me and Roosevelt Skerrit. Whoever goes first, at the end of the day, if Jesus Christ doesn't return during our lifetime, both must depart. And anything we have achieved will be vanity of vanities. But it's about the people of Dominica. It's about Dominica's future. It's about progress. It's about advancement. It's about vision. That's what it's all about. And I've just had enough of people talking like Dominica has gone places. Dominica has gone nowhere. And it is not because of Tropical Storm Eric and Hurricane Maria. Before the disasters, we were last Kakarat, and should do disasters if affected us. If anything, they should have done well for us. Because based on disaster economics, when a country is affected by a disaster, it tends to get a lot of loans and grants thereafter, and it undergoes serious physical infrastructural developments, and that spurs economic growth. Not even that we experience in Dominica. So it is not because of the disasters that we continue to be last in economic development in the Caribbean. We have the smallest economy, the weakest economy. We have the highest state of dependency than any other OACS country. Our people continue to develop, our people continue to depend on the government, for scholarships. You know how many young ladies that have had to be used to get a scholarship? You know many of them? Do you know, and is that okay for you, that young ladies have to be used and abused to get a scholarship, to go and study, to make something better for himself or herself? Where's our dignity? Where is our Christian values as we hear? Many of you were in church this morning saying you're worshiping a Jesus and a God. And when it comes to politics, all of a sudden you surrender your Christian values. Let's get serious here now. Let's get serious. Yeah, let me just look at your one or two comments here. Yeah, so we have a number of people here watching. Having an international airport will indeed at lowest cost. It is very expensive hopping from island to island. Yes, Lisa, of course, an international airport would help us big time. Big up, my brother. In truth, you all the people, yeah, singing for their supper. Now, the reality is that people have to survive. And some people have already been financially and economically crippled. So it's either they die or they survive. So it's justifiable and excusable that those who have been crippled must chase this government to get help. Whether it is a scholarship for a daughter, whether it's a scholarship for a son, whether it's a plywood, a galvanized, an apartment, a job on the NEP, whatever it is. We have to understand that people must survive. So the broken will continue to chase the government. But the broken must be wise to understand why it chases the government for a material benefit. That spiritually it must work on change. That intellectually that person must want to change. So you're going to stay a beggar for the rest of your life? We have some leaders in this country. These guys would not even be considered to be leaders in most countries in the world. When you have Minister of Lands and Housing, Mr. Reginald Austri, we celebrate the man as some kind of big politician. The man has been in Parliament forever. What has the man brought to Dominica? What has he brought to the table? You understand? What is so transformative that this government has brought to the people of Dominica that can inspire our children and our grandchildren? Those are the questions that we have to deal with. And when I think of Dominica, in many ways, I feel sad for the country, because our country is being sold. Yeah, let me just look at a few more comments here. John Davis, you are so right. Let them stay out there and talk while their party is selling their country. The issue, and in clear, the issue is not about the international airport. Since 1967, that has been recognized. It was the UWP who bought land to build an international airport. The issue is fiscal prudence. Why is the land bought since 1998 for the airport not being used? Well, Inkler, your point is well taken. And that's simple. If you want to build a house, let's say currently you're in an apartment, and 1998, your father identified a portion of land. He paid for it. Now you have some monies. You can go on the land that your father has purchased for you and simply build on it, or you can purchase another portion of land, which is not superior to what your father bought for you. But because you're sensible, because you're honest, because you are progressive and visionary, fiscal prudence, you go into the land that your father bought for you, because to move into a new land, it means that you have to expend monies. You will have less at the end of the day. Already constructing a house is going to come at a great cost. So that's a very important issue, and time will tell why this government has hastily in 2020, during the pandemic and hard times, been spending money in land acquisition for the construction of an international airport, when it has not justified to the people of Dominica. Why is it has departed from the site which has already been acquired by a government, the United Workers' Party government, in 1998 for the construction of an international airport? This government has not given us any proper reason why it has moved into the site that it has selected at the expense of the people of Dominica. You know, at the expense? The sale of more passports, the inclusion of more non-Dominicans into Dominica space. And we don't see the adverse consequences right now. But let something major happen in the world where all these economic citizens have to seek refuge in Dominica. You see the change. You will then understand what is happening. You will then understand what we are doing. They're selling passports with no cap. Well, maybe one day we'll live long enough to understand what I'm talking about. Because for now, it's okay for us, right? Just sell a passport, get some monies, and build. You know? But you know another sad part of all of this? MMCE is selling our passport like selling bread, to a point where the government of Dominica is now borrowing money from a company which was created in Dominica. Can you believe that? So MMCE was created in Dominica and now is the wealthiest company in Dominica. And people who were born in Dominica, struggling, whether you open a laundromat, a bakery, a little retail shop, have you grown? Who are the people growing in Dominica? Foreigners. And then you're still out there saying you're supporting the Dominican Labour Party. For what? For the smallest economy in the Eastern Caribbean, the lowest wage rate, for the highest dependency. It's annoying. Dominicans, get real, get serious. Get out of your political pampers. Become political men and women and look up and watch into the eyes of your Prime Minister and to tell him that he's selling your country. He's giving most of the work for these public projects to foreigners. He has given passports to a foreigner to sell and to make money, and then we have to borrow monies from that man. Are we real? Where do you hear that happening anywhere in the world? Only in Dominica. Only in Dominica. And we are on Facebook parading like a proud people. No, we are not proud people. We have lost our dignity. We have lost our way. Get back to yourself, Dominica. Win yourself back. Take back your country before it's too late. Yeah, let me just look at some more comments before I wrap up. Hi, Carla. I hope all is well. Yeah, so the people who are working in Dominica are UWP supporters. The Liberals have to go to Skerritt to see if they can get a bit of food. Yeah. Who are the MMCE board members? No Inkler. NMC is one man, Matthew Hayden. Man has come to Dominica and become a multi-millionaire. And now we have to be borrowing money from his company. And we're okay with that. We're okay with that. Huh? We have done so well. Thank you for joining me this evening. This is Joshua Francis, attorney at law and former member of parliament. I meet with you every Sunday from 8 p.m. We look at national issues. Tonight we looked at the land acquisition, the compulsory land acquisition in the Wesley area for proposed construction of an international airport. Of course, we looked at the process involved as far as acquiring land. What are the basic things required by the government of Dominica in acquiring land compulsorily? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? We looked at the source of income, the source of financing for the construction of the proposed international airport. We look at some of the issues which are in contention surrounding the construction of the international airport. And we touch on other peripheral issues, including the CBI program. Of course, I dealt with the sale of our lifeblood, the sale of our citizenships. Is it worth it that we sell ourselves to get a penny, and that the people who enjoy the milk, the cream of the milk, are foreigners? As in MCE, we have one man who came to Dominica, created a company, and now can boast to be amongst the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest, to the point where he can lend money to us. He's buying land, constructing things. I mean, come on, people of Dominica, wake up. All right? So once again, thank you. Thank you for the interaction. Thank you for standing for Dominica. Those of you who support the opposition, those of you who stand against this government, do not be discouraged. Every rope has an end. No matter how long it is, it has an end. So stand for what is right, stand for what is good, stand for Dominica. You may be in the minority right now, but it is better to be in the minority standing for truth than to be in the majority subject to false consciousness, subject to submission and manipulation by the rich, powerful, and deceivers. Believe me, the minority, historically, once it has stood for truth, eventually stands out and delivers the majority. And that's what will happen in Dominica. Those of us in the minority standing against this regime, one day we will gain an advantage, we'll open the eyes of the blind and take them onto a valley of enlightenment, and to wash them from their false consciousness and clothe them with vision and understanding, so that this country will be liberated and will find itself in a proper place. A place where people can be once again independent. A place where mothers do not have to sacrifice themselves and their daughters to get scholarships, to get housing, to get jobs. We are looking towards a Dominica where farmers will be proud again to put on their boots, hold their to their cutlasses, whether assisted by Haitians or not, go on their farmlands and earn an honest dollar. We are looking for a Dominica where sportsmen and women can have facilities and play sports both day and night. We are looking for Dominica where people can look up to politicians and hold them accountable when they are involved in dishonesties, illegalities, and irregularities. We are looking for a Dominica where we will have an electoral process where no one party will have an unfair advantage. We are looking for a Dominica where we will have integrity again, where people will be honest, not only at political levels, but in every nook and cranny of institutions in Dominica, whether at the registry, whether at the public office, such as schools, whether at the police stations, wherever. We are looking for a Dominica where we can be proud again, where you raise your flag with pride. Now you have an economic citizen who can raise a flag with you, yet has never stepped into the country, never played marble hole, never took a bath in the Rosary River, You understand? That is what we are doing. And soon, if you're not careful, Roseau will be owned by foreigners. As I speak to you, I know of one Chinese who has 7 properties in Roseau. One. Let us not pay attention to our country and allow ourselves to be fooled over and over and see where it takes us. Good evening, Dominica. We will not let Dominica move from us. All right, let us stand up, those of us who believe in righteousness. So I want to thank you. I have spent 1 hour and 36 minutes and 45 seconds with you. It was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. And I hope that you will join me next week so that we can continue to discuss. Next week we'll be looking at the decriminalization of marijuana, its impact on Dominica, whether the government of Dominica should have gone beyond that in terms of commercialization of cultivation of marijuana, the legalization. We'll look at that. So Dominica, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. If you have any concerns, any questions, any comments, you can inbox me right here on Facebook. You can WhatsApp me at 245-0704. I stand with you. You stand with me. We're contending for Dominica. Let us thank God for another day. Let's give him a lot of praises. We're alive, and being alive means there's hope. No matter what you're going through, whether it's social, whether it's financial, whether it's spiritual, whether it is a relationship issue, let me tell you that in God there is hope. So just do what is right. Once you do what is right and you stand for right, no matter what you go through, no matter how many pits you fall in, you will stand again. All right? No matter how hot your fire is, you will not get burnt. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire and did not get burnt, you will not get burnt. Like Daniel in the lion's den, so too, when you stand for what is right, you will tame your enemies and you will prevail. So, once again, I thank you. Continue to smile. May you have a beautiful week. Wherever you are, success to you. Join me again next week, same time at 8 p.m. Season greetings to you. I love you and take care.
Thank you.